What's up guys, how's it going? Hope y'all are doing well. So today I'm doing a list of my top 25 favorite black metal records of all time, because sometime last year I did a favorite death metal albums video, and I figured it'd be a good time to do a black metal list. But unlike that video, this stuff isn't in any order. I just have it somewhat alphabetical order because I didn't want to bother putting in 1 to 25, so yeah. But first we got Spinning. This almost made the list, but if it was top 30 would have, but just quite outside of the list. So Panopticon, Roads to the North. Probably my favorite Panopticon record, but it's hard to choose one, but most times I usually go for this one. So yeah. Put that through Nordvis and Bindrin. Great shit. Hopefully this gets a repress, but I think Marty said it's happening, so definitely looking forward to that. I need this record on wax, so yeah. Alright, first up we got the Absu, the Third Storm of Cythereal. Definitely my favorite Absu record. These guys definitely have a very unique sound. Like, a lot of the bands that claim to be like black and thrash aren't really black metal influence, but these guys are with kind of more like thrash influence of black metal instead of black and thrash, because it's very much black metal but has like a very thrashy edge to it, and also some like traditional metal leaning to it too, so yeah. Great record, favorite record by them, so yeah. Absu, the Third Storm of Cythereal. Next one, it would be Bathory, Bloodfire Death, definitely my favorite Bathory record. Favorite songs on this one: Fine Day to Die, Golden Walls of Heaven, Holocaust, and Pace Till Death. So this is where the Viking metal influence started to come like more to the forefront, but I argue that the Under the Sign of the Black Mark is where that started, because on songs like Enter the Eternal Fire you could tell where Bathory was going, but I think this is where they perfected it when they're still black metal, so yeah. Bloodfire Death, definitely my favorite by Bathory, so yeah. And I did my favorite first wave video a couple weeks ago, but most of this stuff is 90s or 2000s. That's the only one from the 80s, so there's no repeats from the previous video, so yeah, keep that in mind. Okay, we got a Finnish classic, Behair, Drawing Down the Moon. Definitely another one that sounds super unique sounding. There's been a lot of bands try to copy Behair, but there's no beating the original. Super evil and like a more mid-paced to slow style of black metal, but it's definitely super creepy sounding. I love the like croaky, hollow sounding vocals. But favorite song on this one, probably The Gate of Nana or Summerlands. So yeah, great shit. Favorite Behavior record. Okay, next up we got The Olden Domain by Booktingo. So like Enslaved, these guys have gotten like slightly more progressive with each record, but I prefer Enslaved to these guys honestly, but definitely my favorite record by them. Though I would say Enslaved did this style a little bit better, these guys definitely I don't think get enough credit as they deserve. I know Enslaved is definitely the more popular band, but these guys should be in the same conversation, so yeah. If you like early Enslaved, you don't know Booktingo, check it out. Definitely my favorite of the early material though. Okay, next up, one of the few ones from the 2000s, we got Dark Fortress, Tales from Eternal Dusk. Either 2000s or late 90s, but these guys are from Germany, and to me this sounds like the first two Demi Borgir records mixed with Storm of the Lightsbane era Dissection. So if you want Dissection kind of a little bit more symphonic, but not like full-on bombastic, there's just very slight keys, check it out. But this band's first two full-lengths are definitely great, so yeah. Dark Fortress, Tales from Eternal Dusk, their debut record. Check that shit out. And speaking of, well, I guess I'll show this one next, but Dark Throne, Blaze in the Northern Sky. It was either between this and Panzerfaust, but I tend to pull for this one more. I mean, I know side A is the popular one because you have like Aetherian Life Code and The Shadow of the Horns. Those are definitely probably the two most popular songs, but honestly, my favorite on here is the title track and Where the Cold Winds Blow, so yeah. Definitely my favorite by Dark Throne, but honestly, everything up through Total Death is great, and after that, kind of hit and miss, but oh well. So next we got Dawn, Near Solent, Hyperfoe Evogo. So this is their A debut record from 95, I think. 95, 96 in the area. Again, it's Swedish, so you kind of know it has a, like, more melodic. It's definitely the more melodic side of the Swedish spectrum, like the section, opposed to the more fast side, like Setherial or Marduk. But and apparently these guys are working on a new full length because they've only had 2 albums total. This one and their second album, Slaughter Sun, which finally got a vinyl reissue, which I ordered that. And that's from '98, so they have those 2 and the demos. But hopefully the new record's good. What I've only heard a little snippets from like vocals tracks, but it's kind of hard to tell if it's going to be good from a 10-second vocal clip. But I guess we'll see. Okay, you know this was going to be on the list if I was making it. Dissection Storm of the Lights Bane. I've said probably too many times my opinion on the record after this, so I'm not going to go there again, but their first 2 records are definitely classic. Favorite songs on this one, probably Unhallowed and Retribution. This whole album is perfect if you ask me. Okay, this is a band a lot of people don't like, but I dig. Well, I like the early stuff. Their first like 3 or 4 albums are solid. After that, not really a fan, but oh well. Demi Boogie and Throne Darkness Triumphant. I know most people would prefer the first 2 records, but honestly, this has always been my favorite by them. Some of my favorite songs by them are on here, like Spellbound by the Devil, Mourning Palace, Torment and Christian Souls. Definitely a little bit more symphonic than their first 3, but it's not at the point in their career where it's like super annoying and in your face. It's still like more subtle than they would become later, so yeah. Speaking of something in that kind of vein, The Emperor and the Nightside Eclipse. I like everything up through the 3rd one. 9 Equilibrium. That record's really underrated too, but I almost pulled Anthems, but I go back and forth between which is my favorite, but for today I'm feeling like Nightside. But crazy to think how young these guys were. What, they were like 16, 17 when they wrote this record. Super great musicianship on it too, so. Favorite songs in here, obviously, probably Cosmic Keys to My Creation and Time and Beyond, and I Am the Black Wizards, but also Into Us Satana and Towards the Pantheon, probably my other 2 favorites, so yeah. Emperor Rules, I think they're still together, but they only play live shows. I'd be curious to hear a new album, but considering Ishan mostly just does like prog stuff now, it'd probably be a lot more progressive, so. I'm not opposed to that, I'm just saying it just would be kind of, it would sound more like Ishan's solo stuff than Emperor, at least I think it would, but yeah. So next up we got Enslaved Bloodham. Honestly, Enslaved don't have a bad record if you ask me. I love the whole discography, but definitely if the early stuff, this is my favorite, and this seems to be kind of underrated because most people, when they mention the early stuff, they seem to mention Elder Frost almost every time. I've seen a few people mention this one, but not nearly as much as those other 2, but this has always been my favorite. I like the energy more in here. It's kind of like thrashier than the other 2. Like those other 2 are more like epic and progressive, where this is more like thrashy and kind of fast, but yeah. Great band photos too. Yeah. Enslaved Bloodham, this came out in 99, 2000. Okay, next up, a band I'm not a huge fan of, but I do like their first 2 albums. Goguard Antichrist. Definitely my favorite by Goguard. I mean, it has my favorite song by Goguard, which is the song Goguard. And then also Possessed by Satan's another good one. So I know this band has had like 4 or 5 different vocalists. It gets kind of confusing, but not confusing. It's kind of like hard to have a constant sound when you're changing vocalists a lot, but definitely their best record if you ask me, so yeah. But their first 2 records are killer, so yeah. Okay, next one. This band, for a while I chose the album after this, but lately I've come to appreciate this album more with time. Immortal Pure Holocaust, like I was saying before, I used to be a Battles in the North guy for a while, but lately I've come to appreciate this album more. Like, what's his favorite songs on here? Like Storming Through Red Clouds and Holocaust Winds, the title track, Frozen by Ice Winds, A Sign for the Norse Horse to Ride. Immortal, probably. I was gonna say my favorite band from Norway for black metal, but it's probably Enslaved. I think Enslaved has a stronger discography overall, but the first 4 Immortal records are some of the best black metal ever in my opinion. Which I like At the Heart of Winter, but at certain points it kind of like bugs me for some reason. But it's still good though, so yeah. Next one, another band in my opinion. Speaking of Enslaved, that's never done a bad record. Pale Nazarene, Swirl Finland Pokeday. It was either between this or Uber Karma, but I've been listening to this one more often than Uber Karma lately, which, let me show you something. It's actually a cool picture disc, which most picture discs that I have kind of sound like crap. This one actually sounds decent, so good job Osmos for making the picture disc that actually sounds good. And they actually put in a jacket, which kind of bugs me when labels make a picture disc and they just put in some like cheap plastic sleeve that you can't, that has like no protection to it. But yeah, definitely these guys one of the standouts in the early days. No one sounds like them. They have like a super like fast, almost like Motorhead or Discharge kind of like punk influence to their sound that makes them unique sounding. So next up we got the Marduk, Heaven Shall Burn When We Are Gathered. Not my favorite by Marduk. My favorite is Dark Endless, but honestly, I don't really consider that black metal. To me, that sounds more like a mix of like Mental Funeral era Autopsy and the first Darkthrone record, so I consider that definitely more death metal. So this is my favorite of their black metal albums, but I think the album before this is where they started to go like like a lot faster, but this still has some slow moments. On Nightwind, there's less of them, and then like Panzer Division, they went full balls to the wall. That album's basically a 30-minute blast beat. So then we got some Brazilian shit. Only album from Brazil on my list. Mystifier. What the hell? The world is so good that who made it doesn't live here. This band, another band that sounds very unique, kind of like a more mid-paced to slow style black metal, just like Samael or Beherit, though they're not like a proto-war metal band like Beherit is. They have a little bit of that sound maybe in the vocal range of the production, but it's definitely like more mid-paced to slow. So if you like something like Samael or in Beherit and you want something different, definitely check out Mystifier. So yeah, that is The World Is So Good That Who Made It Doesn't Live Here. I think that's their second or third record. I forget. If I know Wicca came before that, I don't remember what came after that. Next up, another one that's kind of like unique sounding. Necromantia, Scarlet, Evil Witch in Black. So these guys are from Greece, which a lot of the stuff from Greece I'm honestly not really, I was gonna say not a big fan of, but when it comes to the stuff from like the black metal from the late 90s, I'm definitely more of a Swedish guy. Obviously, if you can see some of the stuff I've shown, but the Greek scene, I like it. I'm just not familiar with a lot of the big names, but these guys are definitely one of my favorite, well, one of the best albums in that scene. It's very unique sounding, which they don't have an actual guitarist. They have a regular bassist and then a 6-string bass player, which makes it very unique sounding. But the first few times I listened to it, you can't really tell. It just sounds like a less distorted guitar until you actually really listen to it and you realize there's no actual guitar, so very unique sounding. So yeah. Necromantia, Scarlet, Evil Witch in Black. Their debut, I would say more people prefer, but honestly their debut is kind of boring, at least in my opinion. So I showed the demo record earlier, and I know this guy, the main guy from this band, is now in demo, so kind of a full circle. The Old Man's Child, Born of the Flickering, definitely my favorite record by them. Though their first 2 or 3 records are very solid, they're definitely in that style of demo, so if it was anybody from one of the other Norwegian bands were to join demo, it's very appropriate that the guy from this band were too, because they definitely have a familiar sound. Show this. Cool purple slather, but Old Man's Child, Born of the Flickering. Another band from Greece, God in Christ, Thy Mighty Contract. It was either between this or non-Serbium, but this is definitely my favorite by them. A little bit faster than Necromantia, but not like super fast. It's more like, it has like, not really blasting, but it's like more like mid-pace to somewhat fast, but not like totally speedy, but definitely very creepy sounding and a slight death metal influence on this record, I would say, but maybe I'm alone in that, but I've seen some other people mention that, but yeah. So, Running Christ, I Thought You Might Be Contract, definitely my favorite album by them, but I haven't heard all of it, but what I've heard from this band, I've liked all of what I've heard, so there's that. Now, this is probably the newest album on this list, but I had to include it anyway. The Sargeist Let the Devil In, 2011, I think, their second record, so of all the bands from Finland, these, or at least the newer bands, these guys are definitely my favorite of that scene. Songs to check it out on here: Empire of the Suffering, Burning, Voice of Adoration, and the title track are definitely my three favorites, but yeah. And also one of my favorite album artworks of all time too, very nice, so yeah. Sargeist Let the Devil In, but all the Sargeist albums are great, so you could basically throw it down and pick one, you'll be happy with what you pick. This definitely, I'm glad this got reissued. So this is obviously Satirica and Dark Medieval Times, which I have the CD with the OG artwork also, but I'm not trying to pay $2 for this on vinyl, so I was very happy to pick up the repress when they came out. I also got the second one too, I'm blanking of the name of, but definitely my favorite record by them. Pretty like folky, which makes it nice. There's some cool like acoustic passages and like some slight keyboards in the background, but this is definitely one of the classic albums from the scene, so I'm sure if you know your old Norwegian black metal, you should be familiar with this record, so yeah. Satirica, Dark Medieval Times, check that one out, but I'm sure most of you know that. Okay, for my money, this is my favorite black metal record to ever come from the United States, easily. Judas Iscariot, To Embrace the Corpse's Bleeding. To late 90s, I think, like 90s, I'm gonna say between 97 and 2002 is when this came out, but I would love this to be repressed on vinyl by somebody not named Blake Judd, someone that's actually not a shithead, but apparently Andy from this band, Akhenaten, claims he doesn't want that to happen, but apparently he is no longer interested in being a part of the scene, but whatever, it's his choice to make. I just would really like this to be put on vinyl, but maybe someday. But favorite songs in this: Bathe in Clouds of Blood, Tale from the Eastern Sky, and In the Valley of Death, I Am Their King. Good mix of really fast and slow songs. Like, if you want a good fast song, check out Bathe in Clouds of Blood, but if you want a slower song, check out In the Valley of Death, I Am Their King. So yeah, great record. Hopefully it gets repressed, but if Andy doesn't want it to happen, it's his band, so he can decide whatever. So I've mentioned this band a couple times comparing it to other records, but this is definitely my favorite album by this band. Samael Blood Ritual. I have a box set. I have this nice little cassette box set that has the first 3 albums. I don't keep that in that though. I keep it in my tapes, which you can see right there, so I don't have to pull them from the box every time I want to listen to one of them. But definitely my favorite record by Samael. Let me show you the J code really quick. Again, this has like slight death metal influence, but what's also unique sounding is they down-tune the guitars, which in black metal, that's not really a popular thing to play in, like, not standard tuning, which this definitely has to have, like, more heavier and slightly creepy sound to the instrumentation. But favorite songs on this one, probably After the Sepulture, the title track, Since the Creation, and Bestial Devastation. But this whole record I think is great, so yeah. Samael Blood Ritual, check it out. And if this was only a top 10, this would still be in the list, so you know how that's a solid record then. So this band, I've been debating back and forth between the first record and this one, but at the end of the day, I decided to go with this one. Over Natrans Madrigal. So definitely I would say this is like the epitome of the Norwegian scene for me. I know all those bands try to seem like cold and raw and scathing, but this does that, I think, a lot better than all those other bands. It's just like, alright, hold a flagon of whatever and watch this, motherfuckers. So this is how it's done. So they made like the most scathing black metal record from the 90s and then bowed out and say, alright, we're done with metal. We did the best we could. We did the best record from that scene. Later, fuckers, good luck. And then they like abandoned metal altogether. But I like a lot of the non-metal stuff. I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, the first three are nothing, but I get not liking the other records, but this one definitely, I think, my pinnacle of the black metal era. So yeah, Over Nathan's Madrigal, last record, and then we're done. The Unanimated Ancient God of Evil. Apparently they repressed the debut recently, which I still need to pick up a copy of that, but I prefer this album to the debut, honestly. So these guys are from Sweden and definitely on the more melodic side of the spectrum than the like fasty, blasty type like Ethereal, but I prefer the like more melodic side than the like faster side, to be honest. But I think this came out in, yeah, 95, that's what it says, but this is a 2020 Century Media reissue, and I know some people didn't even know this was getting a repress until I showed in a collection update a while ago, so I guess you're welcome. I don't think they have copies anymore, but hopefully it gets repressed again so you can get a copy, so yeah. Unanimated Ancient God of Evil, is this on any color? I don't remember. I think it's black, but yeah, just black, so you don't need to see that, but it is a gatefold though. I guess I'll show you that. Just the lyrics and shit. So yeah, Unanimated Ancient God of Evil, great record. Alright, we're done. That's 25 records. So if I know someone's gonna disagree and say, oh, this is my favorite record and blah blah blah, but that's what makes all the channels great. If every person had the exact same opinion on every record, there'd be no point in everyone making videos, because if we all had the exact same opinion, then what would be the point? But anyway, this is probably, yeah, it's gonna be my last video of the year, so enjoy your holiday next weekend if you celebrate. So see you guys in 2022. Have a good one. Peace out.